Welcome back, everyone, to the European VC podcast. Today, I have a dear Dane with me, so apologies to everyone who's going to be listening to our terrible Danish accents today. Are you ready for it, Anders? Are you ready to give everyone a great experience of our Danish dialect?
Thank you, Andreas, and couldn't be more ready with my Danish accent here.
I love it. Everyone is already cringing. Before we start the show, a quick note. If you're building or running a fund, you know it takes the right partners. At EUVC, we only work with sponsors we truly believe should be part of your tech stack. Please do take a moment to hear about them. And if you do, reach out, mention EUVC. It's the best way you can support what we do. Thank you so much. First up, Ace Alternatives. Every fund manager needs clean operations behind the scenes, from fund admin to tax and compliance. Ace handles it all across VC, PE, private debt, and real assets. They're trusted by some of the best investors in the world, and if you want peace of mind and a scale-ready back office, Ace should be part of your stack. Finding deals and managing your portfolio is at the heart of running a fund. Synaptic helps you discover startups before others do, and Portfolio IQ keeps your portfolio data sharp and ready for LPs. Together, they're essential tools for modern fund managers. When it comes to legal, you need a team that truly knows venture. Haynes Boone supports LPs, GPs, startups, and scale-ups across the full fund lifecycle. Smart managers make Haynes Boone part of their stack. We have two at EUVC. Tech Barbecue. Oh my God, who doesn't love barbecue? Europe's startup scene meets the loudest, friendliest family reunion ever at Tech Barbecue. From Nordic founders to global VCs, this is where ideas catch fire and relationships get real. If you're building or backing in Europe, Tech Barbecue is where you want to show up. And hey, if you've got a big fun announcement coming up, want to hit the headlines, or just want to tell your story out, do reach out to us because we'd love to help. And we've got some killer partners to help you get in the right media places. They've helped us land Bloomberg, CNBC, Financial Times, Forbes, and many more for the EUVC Summit, and we'd love to do the same for you.
This was their finest hour.
Tear down this wall.
It's more than just an alliance. This is a union of values.
Let's start acting.
This show is not investment advice, and the hosts of this episode may be invested in the funds and companies featured.
So, Anders, maybe you could get us all started by just introducing yourself and the PSV team.
Yeah, happy to. First of all, thank you for listening in out there on this, hopefully a nice talk on deep tech. Myself and my co-partners have, for the past 4 years, actually been on a journey of trying both to communicate with the market, LPs and startups about the potential in deep tech. And that is essentially what we are. And we succeeded in the fall last year of 24 in establishing what for us is Denmark's first deep tech focused venture fund. We can come back to focus and strategy and all that later. But basically, we are right now a 55 million euro deep tech fund. We are 4 partners in the fund. So basically, 4 years ago, we were 4 individuals who one way or another had been working with deep tech investments, either as a CVC or as a VC or private equity, venture builder, researcher, all been wandering around and saw in one way or another the potential in deep tech. And luckily, we hooked up with the PSV, which today is a venture house here at the Danish Technical University. We can also come back to that strong platform. But together we envisioned that Denmark and the Nordics specifically, which is our geographical focus, needed a deep tech early stage venture fund. So that is actually the reason that we started, that we found each other, deep tech partners who believed in the potential and had the experience. And then together with in our view, a completely strong platform with what is recognized as being the European leading engineering and technology university. Which, of course, for us as a deep tech fund, PSV Hafnium is unique in our eyes.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a bunch about both the new Nordics and Denmark and the old Nordics, so to say. Whether it's still worthwhile talking just about the old Nordics, or you should always talk about the new Nordics, which is a concept that everyone in the Nordics is starting to use as they want to grow their firms. First thing I want to ask you is, because you set this point with growing out of DTU and being part of that technical university ecosystem. There's a lot of funds that start like this. There's a lot of funds that have it as core to their their thesis and their own understanding of themselves, but oftentimes they end up not doing that many investments originating from that ecosystem. So far for you, what does that look like deal flow wise and also actual investments coming through?
That's a very good question. And actually also both a question you should focus on in understanding whether that's actually the purpose of it, because the purpose is not to invest in the DTU ecosystem. We are a completely independent fund. That has actually been also the vision from our co-founders from PSV/DTU, that this should not be a fund for the DTU ecosystem. We are an independent fund with the European Investment Fund as of now as the largest investor in the fund. The potential for us is the full Nordics. So that's the geographic focus. There's no allocation specified to a location or a research institute or a geographical origin. But what is the purpose then? You can say, well, why then the platform? Well, first of all, DTU is ranked in several rankings when you have this ratio of number of publications, scientific publications, as of how many spin-outs to then create. DTU actually ranks on par with Oxford and the likes. And that also gives us access, not only to, we can say, sort of semi-exclusive access to deal flow, because we also have PSV with us a LP in our fund, so the interests are aligned. But more the merrier, you can say. We have very direct access to many experts. When you do deep tech investments, it's about knowing also the principles and methodology about doing research, because we can't solve all those bigger challenges if you understand the methodology behind science and research. And we need the people to do that. And we also need the experts to assess the people in which we invest. So even though we believe we are a very strong team as partners, we're actually besides four partners, we're also two venture partners. So where many funds maybe be the opposite triangle, we flip it around and saying we're very heavy on the experience level. But that being said, we don't know everything and can't be expected to do so and shouldn't. And here DTU and our platform comes into play. So whenever we do due diligence or whenever we sort of, you can say, try and help the founders on their technology development, which is what we do. We take technology risk. This comes in not only handy, but very beneficial and value adding to the startups. So that's more the purpose, not to have a bet on that we should invest in only DTU. Actually, we just made our first investment in Finland, to be disclosed. Which company? And then
New Nordics.
New Nordics, yes. Not Scandinavia. Nordics, yes. And so we are, and we actually haven't invested in a DTU specific company as of yet, actually.
Can I ask you, Anders, where are you seeing the value, and are you seeing it come to fruition when it comes to, one thing is the diligence part, but also the value add part to existing portfolio? Are you able to make interesting connections into the research university, or less so?
I would say for sure. We don't meet through. First of all, we think it's the outreach part of it. It's us who's, of course, responsible for both sourcing and making the investments and working with the portfolio companies. So it's us reaching out to the, you can say, ecosystem or community of experts. But for us, it's actually, I think, just like you've been saying in classic venture for many years, entrepreneurs tend to want to give back. That's actually also, in my opinion, in our opinion, what the research community want to do. They want to help, even though you could think otherwise, but we don't see that as the point. And yes, we don't only just work with getting access to experts. We've actually put several technical experts in boards of the company, which we work with. And then, of course, we try to balance that it's not just going to be about the research and science, that it's the whole idea about understanding to invest in the scientific-based technologies with scientific-specific talents, but understanding that we are not investing in technology for the technology's purpose, but we want to build commercial companies. So the whole transformation in also understanding how do we validate technology development, which is also about engineering, also about scaling manufacturing at some point. That's just as crucial for us in the journey when working and developing our portfolio companies.
You're focused on the New Nordics, the Nordics. How much are you expecting to come from Denmark? Where have you seen it so far, both in terms of deal flow and so on? And I, of course, asked this question because you're all four partners based in Copenhagen, am I right?
Yeah. Yes.
So in that way, you oftentimes see that when you have a bit of a wider geographic scope, you also have partners in multiple areas. However, in the new Nordics, it's not that rare that you have investment teams all in one capital, typically because they originate from having had a geo-focused strategy that was only one country, and now they've then expanded because they can see they get quality deal flow from across and they want to grow as a firm and so on. But oftentimes they still have quite a geographically constrained team composition, so to say. Could you tell me a bit about where you're seeing the strengths, the weaknesses, whether you feel that you're as competitive as you want to be in a place like Finland or not, kind of the pros and cons of this and how you're thinking about it as a firm trying to reach out?
First of all, the whole where do we expect to see our deal flow from, one question, and then the other one, how we've organized ourselves. If we start with the latter, which you had a little focus on, I think it's a very needed consideration to do when you organize your team, and we've been very conscious on that. And also because this is a fund one, we have an ambition in becoming a true pan-Nordic investor, but you also have to start at a place. And we are based out of Copenhagen, out of Denmark. And our first 4 investments, which we did along the way in establishing the fund, has been in Denmark. And yes, we've done our first investment in Finland, but we also know about one thing, the proximity, being close. This is early stage. There is a crucial part about working and being close with your portfolio companies. And that is both not only Denmark, but Nordics, rather small geography as of if you zoom out and look at Europe or whatever part of the world, it is a fairly small geography, right? Jutland is as far away from Copenhagen as the southern Sweden. So I think, and it's the southern Norway as well. So I think there's no issue for us, and that's at least our conclusion, to both serve and be close to our portfolio companies in this geography, being the Nordics. The other part is also when we invest in outside Denmark with this, the coming years, is also understanding that, well, we are coming out of Denmark. Well, entering new markets is also being humble and understanding, where are the most crucial research hubs, where are the most crucial spin-outs coming from, where are the potential best deal flow when it comes to deep tech, but also recognizing that we are not the first and only investor wanting to, and for good, to invest in deep tech. So I can also allude a little bit that the first investment we've done in Finland has not been alone. So it's been with other local funds. And that's how we see this. And I guess that could be a question about also a little bit, why would you do that? But if you look into the capital chain of investing in deep tech, it requires some capital, right? So I'll say there are many reflections on our team composition. I can also say that going forward, when we will be hiring new people, it will most likely be with an international flavor. On the deal flow side, we don't have again a specific allocation to where should deal flow come from. There are no LPs requirements on that we should invest X amount in Sweden or Norway and so forth.
But any expectations? Like it's one thing to have it in your LPA; it's another thing to.
Yes. So yeah, very good question. And there are expectations that since we are based out of as a fund one and based out of Denmark, we've already made it 5 or 6 are in Denmark. You will probably see that there will be a high weight of Danish companies, which I believe is also natural. This is where we origin. I'll not say that we should define any specific hub in the Nordics, but Copenhagen is a really strong hub, and Denmark is a really strong hub for the potential of deep tech. And I'm sure we're coming back to why the Nordics and maybe also Denmark are.
Yeah, and I was actually about to go to that because I wanted to ask you, kind of when you look at the Nordics, how do you see it? Do you see that there are strong clusters around specific verticals or types of technology within the different hubs within Stockholm and Copenhagen, or do you see that it's actually within deep tech? It's very hard to predict that this vertical is interesting in this specific area.
These days, there are many uncertainties and things are moving fast. You wake up one day and you thought it would start differently, but that's how it is. And it can also go fast with deep tech. But if you look at the history of deep tech, and also just give a little bit of flavor, we started 4 years ago with putting the first lines on our strategy, raising this deep tech fund. Just try and recalibrate your mindset to that's pre-war in Ukraine. It's pre-geopolitical tensions. It's in the good times 21 of skyrocketing valuation in classic tech and so forth. fast forward to today, 30% of European venture capital is going into deep tech. So of course it's been a positive evolution for deep tech, but it's all based on scientific research and potential technologies. There is a origin, and that's not just something you produce. And in the Nordics and also in Denmark, we have several strongholds. And we really think that we have a strong ecosystem for deep tech innovation. If you look into what does it require, right, to have a thriving innovation ecosystem, one is an established industry and top-tier research institutions. The latter I just mentioned, among others, with DTU, right, being the number one in NG ranks and other. When it comes to engineering technology, you have Karolinska as well, the Royal Institute in Sweden, Aalto in Sweden, Finland, and more on several lists. So high research institutions are for sure present. And I said right in our name, Niels Bohr, coming out of Copenhagen University and so forth, we really have the research hub in the Nordics and has been known for so many years. I worked previously in Novo Nordic in my career, the former diabetes giant, today more obesity focused and known for. We always been saying in Europe that we are good at building high quality research and products, but less so commercializing. So we have this in our history and legacy, also in the Nordics, especially with top quality research. So the talent for building top tier R&D teams for sure are present. That's one of our, you can say, main hypotheses in investing early and believing in building towards EUVC and so forth and creating these deep tech opportunities. The other one is the industry strongholds. I don't know, I'm not expert in the business development across Nordics, but if you look at more countries than less in the Nordics, they are all small markets individually, but together form a strong market. We have a very strong common culture. We understand each other and have a history. And but since we are individual small markets, we've all been raised in creating global companies and building business, doing business outside the Nordics. And that's a strong foundation for all the companies we see today. In Denmark and Sweden, at least, I'm not sure so much about Norway and Finland, but at least in Denmark and Sweden, you are more built out of big businesses than small SMEs. And that is, the list you can go on, right? Whether it's life science and Novo Nordisk, Leo Pharma, Coloplast, and so forth. Whether it's being energy with the renewables, in particularly Vestas and Ørsted and more. And that just gives the opportunity to create new domains. Within life science, we can use all those biological knowledge and legacy to produce biosolutions, so green solutions of tomorrow, right? That's one of the leading points we have in Nordics, right? We're one of I think in Denmark you're the first to coin the term biosolutions. We are perfectionists in working with fermentation technologies and scaling manufacturing. We are countries of industries, right? If you take the energy part, we again strong on renewable. That's created a lot of talent for maybe building the next big bets, whether it's being hydrogen and so far, right? So we have strong top tier institutions in research and strong industry strongholds, which are today thriving, right? We're also in a little bubble, right? These days it feels like being a little bubble in the Nordics, especially in Denmark maybe. But that is actually for a reason. We have stamina and we have the power to actually create innovation, and we do it with top quality. And that is also worth noticing. It requires a lot on the quality side in not only developing but building deep tech companies, because it is rather complex.
I'd love to ask you on exactly the point of crossing the chasm in the deep tech space, because it's especially when you're research driven and close to a research institution. I'm sure it's something that you have been very close to throughout your career, and I'm sure you engage with a lot of people in the PSV ecosystem, meaning not just PSV Hafnium, but also all the researchers that come in and out of the innovation house. I'm sure that you're seeing so many in these super early stages, might even be too early for you, or just researchers not having the mindset that you need to see yet. I'd love to ask you, how are you thinking about this? Where are you seeing that deep tech is becoming more investable because of the change in founder profiles and the founder mindset? Because I think, at least from when I think back 5-6 years ago, when I was active in deep tech here in Denmark, what I was seeing was a lot of the time what you were disqualifying things on was not the strength of the patent and the opportunity, but really that there's no way we can back this founder, and we don't believe in bringing in an external CEO to bring this from the ground up. Or that search might be too difficult. So I'm not saying it's not necessarily possible to do the latter, because it definitely is, but it can be very difficult to find the entrepreneurial talent that will take the opportunity from the ground up.
Again, very good question, very relevant in the sense that, one thing is talking about technology and potential market opportunities, but end of the day, it needs to be executed. Again, back to the team. First of all, I want to say that that's one of the great things about being working with venture as an investor, also specifically in early stage and in deep tech. It's truly not only inspiring, but also admirable how these scientists and researchers and engineers, what they actually possess and what they can actually produce. I can't refer to the source, but I'm actually pretty sure that if you look into classic general unicorns, regardless of what category you're in, majority have a PhD. We are looking specifically for tech-skewed teams. And the biggest milestone for us, I think, the focus point for in graduating these companies into seed and Series A stages are building top-tier R&D teams. So, and that entails, of course, for us to understand what makes these personality traits and technology profiles, what makes them tick, what are they motivated by. And just as an example, right, when you develop technology, validate and de-risk the technology and build products, you're on a journey towards demonstrating a technology in a product, meaning you have at some point to freeze the design of your solution. And that can be difficult if you are really, your purpose in life is doing innovation and research. But it's also say we can't just say we don't do innovation anymore, because that's the whole promise about what we're building. So balancing the whole, what is actually the benefits and what can you contribute with as a scientist, as a researcher, is very clear and are so much needed to building these deep tech companies. We couldn't do it without. But of course, that's also what you're alluding to, Andreas. We would need to see more, and it would be so great to see more entrepreneurial talent flowing into deep tech. And one of our focus points, besides knowing what makes scientists and engineers tick or what motivates them, that's actually also focus on the balanced team skill set. So ensuring that we also have those who have the experience with and understanding in, back to the example, freezing the design, going to demonstration, going to market. So we're not only building technology and building continuous innovation, we need to get to markets. In my past 8 years, I believe I've seen more and more, let's say, research profiles of background who have become entrepreneurs or sciencepreneurs, if you want to use that term, more and more understand what it needs to take to build ventures. But of course, if you go 10 years back, only 10% of global venture capital went to deep tech. 5 years ago or 3 years ago, it was 20%. I think, what was it? Was it Hello Tomorrow? And the recent report says that 28% or 30, if we round up, percent of all venture capital in Europe goes to deep tech now. And that requires we have the talent, right? So we need to see, so a recommendation, if you had to ask for a recommendation to whatever policymakers or strengthen these ecosystems. And the potential of deep tech is we need to see more entrepreneurs going into to deep tech venturing, for sure. But that's both technical profiles and commercial profiles.
When you meet a team, Anders, how do you gauge this? How do you gauge whether there is the sufficient entrepreneurial drive and sufficient business dev understanding within the team? Is this even a fair question? Is this?
Yes, I think it's a fair question. What I'm wondering is that we can put some terms which might seem generic, but end of the day, it's for us. So, in our team, we've worked with several companies. Personally, I've invested in more than, I would say, 15 companies that would clearly define as deep tech. So you can then multiply by a founder team of 2 to 3, and then that's the number of founders with technical profiles I've worked with. And for sure, understanding completely what makes them tick, because it is a certain profile. I'm a former banker myself, so you would probably put the classic color of blue on me and say that I like numbers and all that. But of course, that's what we need to understand, that what kind of people are actually building deep tech ventures in the early stages, and what does it take to keep them motivated? Because this is also a long and tough journey, and this is very different from doing research when you build deep tech ventures. So yes, we need to understand that, but I think it's too general to put traits or characteristics on them. But I'd rather say our focus is then to ensure that we are not only investing in those characteristics. What is then the gap? So, and does the team understand that? So we use a fair amount of time in both in our, you can say, pre-analysis phase or pre-term sheet phase, but in particularly also in the due diligence, but actually also post-investment in working in what we would term as team dynamics. Continuously also be aware of and making the awareness with these teams that do they know what they know and what they don't know and what is needed. So that's how to go about it. There's no cookie cutter on just saying, okay, just check, then good. You really need to work. This is about working with people, right? So that's what we do. Work with them.
You, Anders, work closely, I guess, with the rest of the PSV team. So to those that don't know, there's a more generalist, more digitally focused team that's called just PSV. I guess it's just a pure name. It's just
PSV. So we have there's a sister fund in the PSV venture house called PSV Tech. Yeah,
PSV Tech. What is your learning from that close encounter with a sister team, and also from other generalists when they are meeting deep tech? Where do you see the role for generalist funds to be? Where do you see that generalist funds really need to seek out a deep tech co-investor when they're?
So maybe just a big disclaimer, right? I'm not part of PSV Tech as such. Of course, I have a long-lasting and great collaboration with the team, and have also personally invested in tech myself. I don't know if we bet on that the whole venture capital chain also should consist of generalists, but we would very much both welcome and we hope to see the generalists chip in, because again, building a deep tech journey especially in the early stages, it's really another understanding of and all metrics and another roadmap that you need to work with and build for to succeed. So success look differently, but both sooner than later, having those complementary skill sets also in investor base is for sure beneficial also for the startup. But I can't set a stage on when that is the most beneficial. What I have seen, at least, or what we do see, is that more and more generalists want to work with deep tech. And I would rather also then say, maybe ask generalist funds what have their considerations been and why then deep tech? Because when you ask me, I actually have never had the discussion in why do you actually now want to go into deep tech? Because they know what they bring to the table, and we know what we bring to the table. And I'm just mentioning to some parts of industries where it completely makes sense. The coin tech bio has been coined, right? Yeah. And that's a classic part of where you take the biological learning and build, you can say, primarily software solutions, at least how it's coined and perceived, if you go to Andreas Munk or others. But again, you can't build, let's say, an AI model, I would assume, without understanding what specific data parameters that is crucial for making the model perform. But building the solution for that tech stack is probably more software investors who know how to do that. So there are several areas where the combination of generalists and deep tech specific investors could benefit from each other, for sure.
I'd love to ask you a question, which is something I always grapple a little bit when it comes to deep tech funds, which is I really think the reason why venture worked so beautifully well for B2B SaaS consumer, maybe in the beginning, with the big social media platforms and so on, the digitization of all the things we used to do non-digitized. But if we take all the SaaS platforms, the beautiful thing with that is many of the founders originate from the same ecosystems. Many of the co-investors that will be the best for you to get on the cap table run in the same circles. Many of the first customers are similar, if not the same, and the business models you apply are all the same. This allowed us all to develop a super clear playbook, like blitz scaling, because it's like exactly the metrics you're looking for. It's also why you almost got to a point where you would say, is it even venture anymore? Because it's as soon as it gets to Series A, it's almost like you're just underwriting the metrics, and it looks like more like PE investing. Some people will hate me for saying this, but it's a critique that many deep tech investors has often.
I didn't. You said it. Yes.
Yes, but it is a critique that many deep tech investors has had about traditional venture and saying, it's not really that difficult anymore. It's about just backing a founding team that has mad execution skill and then throwing a lot of money behind it. And I'm making this super simple and provocative by design. I would, however, say that is exactly the strength of that model also. We've had such a clear playbook that everyone could go and execute up against. That is not really the truth I find for deep tech. A lot of funds that are not, so if you're a defense first fund, you're looking at the same buyers every time. You're looking at the same go-to-market strategies. You're looking at pretty centralized research hubs that you know it's going to spin out of. You know where you want to get the talent and so on and so forth. So when you're that specialized, you get a lot out of being vertically focused. What is the common denominator for a deep tech fund that is a bit wider like yours?
Yeah. So that was
that's the tough question.
All the things about what works well for other models. I just want to confirm, and that's so true. And that's also why I guess software service is still the most you can say allocated venture-wise category in as of today still. So makes sense. And if you also look into what is part of all the European focus is digitalization. If you take a country like Germany, they've been so far behind in digitalizing the economy and the society. So there's so much room for working with that model. We try to focus on the deep tech and what the potential lies there. And it's true, there are no common denominator. But if you go back almost, I would say, a century, when all ventures started, at least in the western part of the world, when let's see how long that term holds, the western part of the world, then you can say everything was deep tech. This model you're addressing to, Andreas, right, was started in 1992, or the foundation for it started in 1992 with the rise of World Wide Web. But before then, right, you can say everything from Apple in the 70s, that was not easy to build one of the first personal computers. You have the founder of IBM saying that there's a post out here, DTU, saying with a quote from Mr. Watson saying that the world needs 5 personal computers. That says a lot about it, right? That it's not for everybody. It's very complex. It's very expensive. It's hardware. But all the VC models back then in the 60s and 70s, the first classic venture models as we know them as of today were a life cycle of 7 years. And it was everything from biotech to electronics to whatever technology innovation area you would like. So prior to 1992, everything was deep tech and there was no common denominator. Does that then mean we need to spend more time and it's more complex and the you can say the return possibilities are potentially less? That's not what data says. Venture has always been investing in taking the risk that others wouldn't. But that also comes with the classic profile of venture and maybe deep tech with the history remark I just mentioned, that it is high risk, but it's also extremely high reward. If we look into the potential of deep tech, it is what will transform societies, just like the World Wide Web did for our digital economy and society. So hence, that also transformed. It was groundbreaking, right? In 1992, it was not blitzscaling back in 1992 when the first potential innovations came within classic tech. So what was deep tech then and what was tech then continuously moves up the ladder. And if you follow the classic part of venture, which shouldn't be assessed based on does it fit within a 10-year horizon, it should fit in, can you create growth companies out of investing in true innovation? And that of course moves continuously if you look historically and today and where we want to go. Then now we need to find those new technology domains that will transform and lead the societal wealth or productivity into the next era, where huge technology innovation and companies will arise. That's for sure, right? So that's what we bet on, not a common denominator, but a common understanding of what risk do you need to take, understand the risk that deep tech has. And I'll not say to call it denominator, but what holds true for all deep tech companies is, at least when you invest at early stages, to use another terminology, right? We use this, in lack of better, we use this technology readiness level developed by NASA still. We still use it, but just to say, right, we invest at TRL 4, 5. The technology has only come to a point for all, be it quantum technologies, being new industrial biotech companies, technologies, being it space technologies. They've only come to a point where they can say, we've worked with this in the laboratory. But the way forward there is still building a top-tier R&D team within those specific domains. And then you can then challenge us, say, how can you then both do it within how can you do it within several domains? And that backs to us setting a team with a broader skill set than less, with not only founders and managing partners, but also venture partners, on the foundation of having DTU through PSV as part of our setup and access. That's how we go about it, right? And then we also, I would have fair to say, I've done some tech investments previously. We use a little more time in doing due diligence, both pre and post term sheet, to truly understand the technology behind. But that doesn't make us neither slower nor less capable of making investments. It's about planning and working maybe a little bit different. We're also not a spray and pray model. We will be investing in 25 companies in this fund one here. So fairly sizable portfolio, but not so big that we don't have time to both identify and work with the companies in which we invest.
I think one thing that I often look toward, that I find this is where a good deep tech investor oftentimes distinguishes themselves from those that understand deep tech less well, is in their ability to underwrite a bridge round. Because the famous saying for deep tech is it's not hard to write the first check, but it's very hard to write the second and the third, because those are both bridge rounds. I'd love to ask you a bit how you think about this. Do you think, is it true what I'm saying? Is that also your experience? And how do you kind of see this as, or do you see it as a distinguishing factor for a deep tech fund, that you're actually able to go in and re-underwrite, even though you've hit so many bumps along the way and you're nowhere near market?
But it's I think that's part of the risk we take. You can't both say that you want the opportunity and the reward without knowing that the risks are present, and that's also the case for the whole capital chain of deep tech, right? It's not as mature yet as classic tech, for example. So you can't rely on necessarily having the right volume of next stage investors ready, so you can, with more likelihood than less, ensure to get new investors on board. So again, back to what we've done, right? We've modeled in that we need to back our portfolios in more situations than less. So, funding and co-funding the round 2 and round 3s, the rounds you're talking about, we will not necessarily stay and call it a bridge. We've identified that if our whole case relied on next stage capital, it would be very difficult. I think the current market, as of today of March 25, is one example of it. Still many uncertainties out there. The investment level has decreased a bit, right? Whether you're being a classic tech or classic deep tech investor, you're still holding a little bit back in where the future is going for whatever domain you're looking at. So that means just for us as existing investors in our portfolio, that if we can provide enough capital with our co-investors, that's why we also have a high focus on investing together with others, that we can pass those round 2 or 3, then we are, and that's one, with capital, having the capital sufficient available, but also knowing the technology validation steps we need to go through. We don't rely on, external parties who might not understand what needs to be taken. And then it's very quickly become a bad circle of us. Well, we don't see that you've developed, and well, your valuation is very high. And then you end up in that bad visual circle about trying to communicate, well, we've done this and this and this, and this is truly value generating. But the opposite says, well, you're not in the market yet. And then you're like, that is true. But what I want to say here is that that's a very strong consideration you need to do if you want to enter the deep tech space in early stage from pre-seed to Series A, that there are risks, and this is about understanding and having a willingness to work with technology validation along those paths, because that is true when you compare classic tech or regular tech with the deep tech, that you need more cash pre-revenue to develop as of classic tech, right? Not in the total funding amount, but as of those stages, pre and post revenue phase as a company.
Yeah, the financing risk with these companies are often quite high. All right, I want to ask you, and I think that it's very wise to have a strong allocation strategy to follow-ons and being ready to lead those rounds, because it's very likely going to be the case. Now, Anders, I want to close with a rapid fire. Are you ready for that?
I really don't know, because I don't know what's coming, but shoot.
I want to ask you, the most exciting deep tech sector for the Nordics in the next 5 years, what is that?
I need to choose 2. Three. Come on, give me three.
Yes, let's go.
Energy, biosolutions, and quantum/future of compute.
Cool.
Yeah, three.
We have an episode coming out on that with the guys from Inflection. That's definitely
Nice.
one you'll enjoy.
Yeah.
It's on computational sovereignty for Europe. So that's cool. The biggest misconception about deep tech investing, what is that?
There are more again. I think reading either McKinsey or BCG is continuously fighting debate about how to debug the myths about deep tech are many. It's both about, one, does it require more capital to fund deep tech? No. Do you create less attractive financial returns with deep tech than classic tech? No. And the list goes on. I think how many are there? 5, 6, 7, 8 of those?
I think the two first are very important to kill. Let's go to the third question. What will drive more deep tech exits in Europe?
Plenty. Many of it. I think in general, it's both from the beginning of understanding how to and the importance of creating new innovation as to making the exit markets more aware of. There's a lot of awareness in this with deep tech as well, and create the opportunities to do that, create exit opportunities, and a bunch in between from regulatory to maybe also make awareness with the corporates and governments how to ensure that we purchase from these deep tech companies. So many things. I really can't mention one thing, Andreas. But you could start with just saying, take the leap, right? Take the leap of faith and invest in deep tech.
That is very true. So a single piece of advice for scientists looking to become founders.
Go do it. I think I mentioned one data point in this talk, right? If you look at the unicorns created across sectors, the majority, I think it is, or how it is framed, is that they have a PhD, the founders of those companies.
I don't know if they have a PhD, but they're definitely technical.
Technical, right? And I think that the classic story we often or sometimes use, right, is the story with Arthur Rock, the founder and father of American Venture and former chairman, now chairperson of Intel, right? When the later founders of Intel and Fairchild and what have you not of interesting deep tech or tech innovation, that was actually 8 founders who didn't know and didn't have any aspirations into becoming entrepreneurs. So I'm just saying that there's so much potential out there, and so if you hear talk, if you are being exposed to getting the opportunity to build your own company as a scientist or engineer, go ahead and do it.
And if anyone thought that the story about Arthur Rock is one they would like to pursue, I would definitely, and you've commented a couple of times, the origins of venture. I think anyone listening in that hasn't read it yet, The Power Law of Venture Capital and the Art of Disruption by Sebastian Mallaby is an absolutely great read for anyone that wants to understand the history of venture. It is both written in a super engaging way, and it is really the foundations of the industry that I think we all should know. And honestly, I do think it's a bit incorrect that there are so many that run around in venture not knowing where we come from. So let's close this podcast with that note. Anders, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting.
Before we start the show, a quick note. If you're building or running a fund, you know it takes the right partners. At EUVC, we only work with sponsors we truly believe should be part of your tech stack. Please do take a moment to hear about them. And if you do, reach out, mention EUVC. It's the best way you can support what we do. Thank you so much. First up, Ace Alternatives. Every fund manager needs clean operations behind the scenes. From fund admin to tax and compliance, Ace handles it all across VC, PE, private debt, and real assets. They're trusted by some of the best investors in the world, and if you want peace of mind and a scale-ready back office, Ace should be part of your stack. Finding deals and managing your portfolio is at the heart of running a fund. Synaptic helps you discover startups before others do, and Portfolio IQ keeps your portfolio data sharp and ready for LPs. Together, they're essential tools for modern fund managers. When it comes to legal, you need a team that truly knows venture. Haynes Boone supports LPs, GPs, startups, and scale-ups across the full fund lifecycle. Smart managers make Haynes Boone part of their stack. We have two at EUVC. Tech Barbecue. Oh my God, who doesn't love barbecue? Europe's startup scene meets the loudest, friendliest family reunion ever at Tech Barbecue. From Nordic founders to global VCs, this is where ideas catch fire and relationships get real. If you're building or backing in Europe, Tech Barbecue is where you want to show up. And hey, if you've got a big fun announcement coming up, want to hit the headlines, or just want to tell your story out, do reach out to us because we'd love to help. And we've got some killer partners to help you get in the right media places. They've helped us land Bloomberg, CNBC, Financial Times, Forbes, and many more for the EUVC Summit, and we'd love to do the same for you.
This was their finest hour.
Tear down this wall.
It's more than just an alliance. This is a union of values.
Let's start acting.